be here with us today. So thank you.
Great, I'll take a few minutes to share my screen. Hold on just a moment. So Amy, I can't see the chat box, so I just want to make sure that everyone can see my screen. So if you could put in the chat box whether you can see that, Amy, just let me know if people are having trouble viewing, but I'll get started. Hi everyone, my name is Margo Crawford with Wave Productivity. I am a productivity coach and professional organizer, and I help people get more focused, organized, and productive at work. I've been in the organizing industry for nearly 20 years, and I love to be able to share tips and techniques with you so that you can start having better days. A little bit about me. I grew up in southeastern Massachusetts, and I am an avid surfer. So I took the two things that I loved, catching waves and productivity, and put those together and named my business Wave Productivity. I don't want to spend a ton of time talking about me. I really want to focus in on you and what you're going to be learning today. What we're going to be talking about is time management and time management during the pandemic. So it has a little bit of a spin on it. We're going to be talking about what time management is, different methodologies that you can use, techniques that you can pull from each methodology, and we'll be talking through some exercises. There is a point in this where I'll ask a few questions. If you can write in the chat box your answers, and then Amy will provide those for us. Now, this is a nutshell version of time management. We have less than an hour to talk it through. Each methodology that I'm bringing up today could be a full 2-day workshop. So this is just the Cliff Notes version, but it gives you enough of the basics that you can take away some techniques, implement them right away in what you're working on. It will make a difference in the way that you work. A little bit about this presentation. It's set up for different learning styles. So if you're an auditory learner, you get to sit back, relax, and listen. If you are a visual learner, the PowerPoint is for you. Take a look at the pictures that are up on the screen, burn those into your memory, because even weeks later, when you're thinking about this presentation, you can think about the topics and the pictures, and it will naturally, all the information will naturally come back to you. If you're a kinesthetic learner, I suggest you take notes, doodle, draw, whatever you need to do to ingrain the information. In studies, what they're finding is that in virtual meetings like this, that we are not retaining as much information as we do in in-person meetings because some of the body language is lost, some of the communication is lost. So I suggest you take notes. So let's move forward with what we're talking about today, which is time management. The biggest piece about productivity and time management is making sure that you have self-care, especially during the time of the pandemic. So making sure the cornerstone for productivity is sleep. If you are sleep deprived, you won't be able to work through your day. Many of us as small business owners have had sleepless nights since COVID hit the United States. Making sure that you get 7 to 8 hours sleep each night is going to be beneficial to you and increasing your immunities, but also replenishing your body and your brain so that you can get back to work with energy. So making sure that you get enough sleep. The other thing that you need in terms of productivity and time management, in terms of a holistic approach, is healthy eating. This is not just healthy eating for you, this is healthy eating for your business so that it will thrive. Exercise is the third piece in self-care. So making sure that you set aside time to exercise. What's been wonderful during the pandemic is noticing people in my neighborhood taking walks, walking with their dogs I've never even seen before, but they're out in the neighborhood now, which is wonderful. So making sure that you get out to get oxygen to the brain, blood pumping through your body so that you can rejuvenate. That's the important pieces of self-care. When you do that kind of self-care, it not only affects you as a person in your home life, but it will also affect you in your work life as well. I want to discuss a few things that are happening with the pandemic. A lot of people are talking about how they need to produce. But during a time of crisis, you really need to look at productivity and efficiency. And in productivity, you're looking at output. And we are not producing what maybe we produced in the first quarter because of the crisis that we're in. Where we really need to look at is in efficiency. Efficiency, the goal there is to provide resources. So what resources do you need during the pandemic? What resources does your team need during the pandemic to make sure that you can produce effectively? We made some pretty quick pivots. Many of us moved to an office, to a home office, where we may have gotten headsets and quickly came together, pulling together a home office. And I also want you to know, people will talk about working remotely or working from home. I want to put a different spin on this. You are at home during a crisis trying to work. You're at home in a crisis trying to work. And in this crisis, there are going to be many changes. It will be difficult for us to forecast. And even in that forecasting, needing to reforecast, which can be exhausting. What I'm suggesting to my clients, because of this is a time of uncertainty, is really looking just 2 to 3 weeks out, maybe a month at most, in terms of strategic planning. Certainly looking at Q3 and Q4 is important to do some forecasting, but if you're going to do any clear milestones, those need to happen in more shorter spurts. So what is time management? Time management is actually an oxymoron, because what you're managing is you. You're managing your time, your plans, your goals. And in this pandemic, I'm sure you have felt times where you have felt mismanaged, right? So looking to create some very clear routines that will start your day, routines that you have throughout the day in your work day to be productive. And then looking at how you're finishing off your day and ending your day in a way that manages your time effectively. Studies have shown that since the pandemic, we have increased our workday by about 3 hours. So we have no commutes, don't have to change up into pretty clothes. We can just kind of work in our sweats, and still we've increased our workload in our workday. So if you were working an 8-hour day, now it's about 12 to 14. Be mindful of that and be aware of that. In crisis, we do need to push through and maybe add on some extra hours. But as we've settled into this crisis and become more proactive, looking at decreasing the amount of time that you're working so that you can stay replenished and refreshed. Time management and managing you will help you and allow you to do that. So I want to talk through some of the things that you're wasting your time on and some of the things that you've been able to save time on. So in the chat box, if you can add in some of the time wasters that you've experienced in the past couple of months. And Amy, if you can just call those out. Some common time wasters are things like social media, research that you might have to do where you start going down a rabbit hole. Other time wasters are larger issues like perfectionism or procrastination, or you're trying to find the right time to launch, or you're trying to make the website absolutely perfect before it goes up. Knowing that you have some time wasters, being able to look on ways that you're cutting those back. And now in the chat box, if you can add in any time savers that you've found in the past couple of months that have been helpful. Amy, if anything comes through on the chat box, just let us know. So some of the time savers have certainly been with our commutes. Some of us are getting grocery delivery, which is another great time saver. Some time savers that can help you in your workload are making sure that you are getting on the phone versus back and forth email. That's another great time saver. And staying connected with the people within your team and organization, as well as colleagues that you have. We'll talk about that more as we end our presentation. So there are three systems that I really want to focus in on today. The first one is called Getting Things Done. It's also called the David Allen system, and you may have heard it referred to as GTD. Another popular methodology is the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey. That one you've probably seen in bookstores or heard people refer to it. But one that's not so common is the Pomodoro method. I'll be talking about that method in ways that you can implement that into your work. And why did I choose these? Each one comes with a book. They each approach time management differently. So some are looking at it from big picture to small actions. One really approaches it with time management itself, ways that you can block out times and get tasks complete. These are all classic books. They have been in the market and have been part of the productivity conversation for 20 years or more. And what's interesting is these methodologies came out 20 years ago, but brain science finally caught up. And what neurologists have found is that these methodologies actually support the way our brain works. So it's pretty interesting, like brain science. So the first book is, and the first methodology is Getting Things Done. I want you to take a look at the picture on the screen. Because this book has been out for about 20 years, there have been several editions. It is the edition that looks like this that you want, and you'll see at the bottom it says a brand new edition. The reason why it's important to choose this book over past books that may have had some small updates is David Allen's latest book really integrates a lot of the technology that has come out over the past 20 years. And what David Allen says as part of this methodology is that there is so much to do. We need to appropriately handle those things and stay in action. Getting out of your head, getting all of your tasks out of your head and into a trusted system, reviewing that system regularly. And then he talks about looking at what is the big picture, what are your projects, and what are your next actions. They're going to drive those projects, ultimately drive you to that larger vision that you have. Now, because this system was created by David Allen, it's a little bit cookie cutter for David Allen. I've had clients who've contacted me and said, I want the David Allen system. And I've said, well, don't you want the system that works for you? What I have done in David Allen's methodology is really pulled out some of the best practices that would look like in your office. So one of the first best practices is a collection process. What he suggests that you do is collect everything in your world. All the things that are kind of roaming around on your desk and computer desktop, on your phone, to-do lists, gather those all up and process them, organize them in a system that works so that you can get a pulse and understanding of projects and next actions that you need to work on. He also talks about something called the 2-minute rule. This is a technique that I add into every single one of my presentations because it will put you into rock star status. If you can get a task done in 2 minutes or less, just get it done. So if you need to sign it, send it, burn it, buy it, fax it, whatever it is, if you can get it done in 2 minutes or less, get it off your plate, finish it as quickly as possible. Now, 2 minutes is not a strict rule. It is a guideline. If it takes 3 or 4 minutes, fine. If you can push it off and make sure that it gets complete, then it's not hanging out there where it might get lost and actually falls through the cracks. So take 2 minutes or less, get it done. I was working with a CPA during tax season. He started implementing this rule, and within 3 or 4 days, he contacted me and said, "This is amazing. I'm feeling great because I know that my clients need a lot of quick, clear answers, and I'm able to provide that in just 2 minutes." David Allen talks about creating lists. So lists for projects, lists for next actions or tasks. And he has other lists. He has one called Someday Maybe. Someday I might work on this. Maybe I might work on this. But right now, it's just an idea. And you can capture it in some way. Oftentimes when I'm working with clients, I'll see a jumbled list. Some of those things are ideas. Moving them off the to-do list allows for less overwhelm and less stress. So you look at that Someday Maybe list and see, is there anything on here right now that I need to move to a project or action? You don't want to lose it, but you do want to capture it. Other lists that are really easy and great to create. Do you have any hobbies? So for instance, I mentioned that I'm a surfer. So I have a list of all the surf supplies that I need at the beginning of the season, all in the trunk of my car. It's really quick and easy. And so if anyone asks me, hey, the waves are up, you need to get down to the beach, I can be there within 15 minutes and I'll be out on the water surfing. This is great for if you are traveling. We're not going to be traveling anytime soon. And if you do, I hope you do that safely. But having a packing list, having a list, because we're going to be a little bit more mobile, going maybe back to the office part-time, having a list of all the things you'll need to bring with you from home to work and work to home. You also want to look to clear your mind. We're going to be doing a short exercise around that. So what you need for the system, you need an inbox, a way to capture all of the information that is coming to you. So having an inbox at your desk, but also having an inbox on your computer desktop so that things don't get cluttered up. Having a folder that says inbox and then moving all documents to that folder and then processing them through, filing them out, or knowing where to find them can help in managing the information you have. David Allen also suggests that you have a calendar, a filing system, and a labeler. You can label all of your files and all of the information that you have. There are a bunch of different platforms that support the David Allen system, thousands of them, thousands of different apps you can use. So if you feel like this is a system that you fully want to take on, that's great. You can then do some research on an app that would work best for you. But I would say this, work on the habits themselves first and then move to technology. So some of the pros and cons of using this system. It is great for people who love making lists. It really can give you an idea, a full scope of the work that you're working on and help you to manage things that might fall through the cracks. Some of the cons, it is a very intricate system. The book is very dense with information, so I have had clients where they may have gotten a quarter of the way through. I've read the book several times, so and it's really interesting to me, of course, because but David Allen himself has mentioned that if you wanted to implement the entire system, that it would take up to about 2 years. So that can be a little bit time consuming for most people. Using the best practices that I talked about today can be some quick ways of implementing this methodology. So let's do a calm mind exercise. This is a short meditation technique that you can use. You're feeling like things feel overwhelming and stressed out, to just take a few minutes to calm your mind. When we're overwhelmed and stressed out, the executive functioning portion of our brain actually shuts down. So staying calm allows that to open up. It allows us to be able to plan and make really good decisions. So sit comfortably in your chair, with your feet flat on the floor, have your back straight in your chair. If you feel comfortable, close your eyes. What I want you to do is take a deep breath in through your nose and exhale through your nose. any thoughts come into your mind, focus back in on the natural pattern of your breathing. When you focus in on this natural pattern, your breathing will begin to slow down. You might become aware of sounds around you. Acknowledge that. Let it go. Focus on your breathing. And then take one more deep breath in. Biggest breath you've taken all day. Exhale. When you feel comfortable, you can open your eyes. Now you might be thinking, well, why are we doing meditation during time management? Because studies have shown that when you take breaks, short bursts and short breaks, it will allow you to get back into work with more concentration and focus. So doing this small meditation technique throughout the day can actually help you become better focused. So creating times in your day to do short meditations allow you to concentrate. So let's talk about the 7 habits of highly effective people. I chose this specific picture because it reminds us that you don't have to be reading these books, that this is the audio version of 7 habits. So grabbing the audio version is just as great, and that is available to you. And what Stephen Covey did in this methodology is you really look at getting clear on life goals, looking at priorities and ways that you can be effective in the work that you're doing. And the best practices from this methodology are a personal mission statement. So creating a personal mission statement that allows you to have a guideline for the way that you're going to show up at work. I want to share with you Richard Branson, who is an entrepreneur, his mission statement. What he says is his life's mission statement is to have fun in his journey in life, to learn from his mistakes. In business, is to know how to be a good leader and always try to bring out the best in people. It's very simple. Listen to them, trust in them, believe in them, respect them, and let them have a go. Now, Richard Branson is very much a British person, so let them have a go is a very British statement. But it really shows you how he is going to show up at work, approach his employees and customers, and if he's off base, he would be able to quickly course correct by reminding him of his personal mission statement. I want to share with you my own personal mission statement. Mine is to bring peace into the world. The best way that I do that is through productivity. Because when I work with someone in clearing their desk and their mind, it creates a place of calm and peace. When you can create a place of calm and peace at work, you can bring that to your family, to your friends, to your community, to the world. So I know when I'm off my mission statement and when I'm full on. One great thing that Stephen Covey has on his website, covey.com, is a tutorial that takes you through the mission statement. So you'll answer some basic questions. At the end of it, it spits out your personal mission. How you respond to those questions, it may need a little bit of tweaking, but in general, you come up with a really strong mission statement that you can start using in the work that you're doing. How does this save you time? Like I said, you know when you're off base and how you can quickly course correct. During a crisis, you can look to your mission statement and remind yourself of how you want to show up in the work that you're doing. You want to set clear priorities and goals. This is certainly different in a crisis. I've had many of my clients pulling out their goals that we started working on in January to reassess where they need to be during this crisis. I suggest you do the same. Most of the time, people are tucking away their goals, or the dust is settling on those goals by the second quarter. So pulling out your goals and making sure that they're updated. If you have no goals right now, now is the time to actually set them and get them in place. What I'm finding with clients, because we have kind of an uncertain future of what's happening with the pandemic, that we really take into consideration how much we need to forecast. So maybe just planning 4 weeks in advance, and then looking to Q3 and Q4 as some guidelines in the goals that you may need to set. From those goals, you can pull the priorities and projects that you need to work on. Without those goals and clear priorities, you're really going to start to flounder. There's something that Stephen Covey called sharpening the saw. So if you're dull in your skills, you're not going to be able to cut down a tree with a dull saw. Same thing with our learning and our skills. We need the tools to work in our business. And what's great about today is that you all here are sharpening the saw. You are learning new techniques and new skills for time management. But what other resources do you need so that you can stay effective and efficient? Skills that would help you drive your business forward. Now is the time to be working on those skills. There may be specific skills or gaps that you see with team members, making sure that they get the resources and sharpen their saw so that they can work effectively in their jobs. When you're working with dull skills and don't have the resources that you need, it can be very difficult to manage your time. And then looking at ways that you can be more proactive versus reactive. In times of crisis, we are certainly more reactive. And you may have seen that maybe at the beginning of March when we all needed to work from a home office or pivot our businesses in some significant ways. As things are settling in, we need to shift to a place where we can become more proactive with our tasks. And there's a way that Stephen Covey has us doing that. We'll talk about that in a little bit. So what do you need for this system? Well, Stephen Covey is happy to provide you with a wonderful book that has a calendar and to-do lists and all these wonderful add-ons that can cost a little bit of money and be quite expensive. So that's really one of the cons of this system, is that you have to use Stephen Covey's system. You can recreate it. And one of the best things that you can do is pull those best practices in what we talked about, fold them into the work that you're doing. So some of the pros of using this system is that you are gaining more skills. It is geared to people who love to learn, but also some of the pros are that you have a clear vision for your future. You have goals set in place. You have a personal mission statement that really drive your work and drive the values of your company and the work that you do. So Stephen Covey created something called the Covey Quadrant. If you take a look at this quadrant, you'll notice that in quadrant 1 is what is most important and urgent. These are emergencies, crises, problems, and deadlines. You do not want to be working out of quadrant 1, or you want to be working out of the quadrant is quadrant 2, important but not urgent. And this is the difference between being proactive in quadrant 2, where you're looking at long range planning, relationship building with your customers, with your team, some leisure activities, and working in preparation. When you are reactive, you're dealing with those crises and those emergencies. So making sure that you're moving your tasks into quadrant 2. If you look at the bottom of these quadrants, what you'll find is those time wasters that we talked about. Interruptions, junk mail, calls where maybe you're taking 20 minutes or 40 minutes to just chat it up. It's also some things like the busy work that you might do. In crisis, we want to feel accomplished. We want to feel that we succeed. So we choose easier tasks instead of the tasks that will move us forward. So be mindful of that as you're working throughout your day. The next methodology is called Pomodoro technique. This was created by Francesco Sorello. He was an Italian. He was working on getting his master's degree, and he was having trouble getting through a lot of his studies. He found that if he used a timer and could time himself for 25 minutes and jump into his homework, that he wouldn't fail a lot of his classes and he'd actually get most of his homework. So this is the technique that he created, and it's something that he just kind of stumbled on. So here are some of the best practices. One is that you get into positive self-talk. You choose a task that you know that you can work on for 20 minutes, and you set a timer and you just get that done. In between setting the timer for 25 minutes, you would take a break, about a 3 to 5 minute break. So you'd set your timer for 25 minutes, and then take a 5-minute break, and then set your timer again, choosing a very specific task, and then working on that task in a very focused and concentrated way. You're focusing on how you're going to get it done, not why you're getting it done, just moving in that concentration mode, moving it forward, and creating some great focus in the work you're doing. And in that 25 minutes, you're really taking time to eliminate distractions. So what do you need? You need a timer. You can actually grab your phone. There's a great app called repeattimer.com that you can set up a 25-minute time span and then a 5-minute break and then another 25-minute time span. So you want to have 4 25-minute Pomodoros, and then in between those 25 minutes have 5-minute breaks. What's great about this technique is that if you're feeling like you're working from home, that home chores would get in the way, those 5-minute breaks can actually help you to jumpstart some of the things that you may need to do around the house, like load up the dishwasher or switch the laundry or check on the children. It also is a great time to just step away from your computer, take breaks. One of the breaks that many people are finding that they need is in virtual meetings and virtual calls. So people are finding that these virtual meetings are exhausting. One of the ways that you can take a break from that is just take a few seconds to look away from your screen and look out the window. It will help with eye strain. It helps decrease some of the exhaustion that people feel when they're doing some virtual meetings. Even taking a break from a virtual meeting. The other thing that you'll need in this methodology is a clear to-do list. Some of the pros and cons. Some people feel that each time they're distracted, that they need to start the timer again. That is totally up to you. You don't have to be so rigid, but some people find that that rigidity can be a little bit stifling. Some of the pros are that people feel like they're well rested because they have these short breaks, and that they can get a lot of concentrated work done throughout the day. In the Pomodoro technique and through any of these methodologies, one great thing to do is keep a time log, what you're working on and how long it takes. I had a fantastic client who would say, oh, this is only going to take me 15 minutes. And we actually timed him, and we found out that he would always estimate about 3 times less than he needed to. So if it took 15 minutes, it actually took him about 45. Some people find that when they are tracking their time, that things that they thought that would take longer, oh, this is going to take me 10 minutes, actually takes them a whole lot shorter. So then it becomes a 2-minute rule that you can put into place. So tracking your time and creating a time log can be really helpful in seeing where you may be wasting your time, where you're overestimating or underestimating tasks that you have within the work that you have to do. Also, being held accountable. So, making sure that you're held accountable. So there may be someone on your team where you can connect with them and say, these are the 3 things that I want to work on, or this is what I want to work on, 25-minute Pomodoro technique that I talked about, and then really focusing in and getting that done. There is an accountability group that I started. You can check that out on waveproductivity.com. And you check in at the beginning of the day with 3 things that you plan to work on. We have a focused work time on Zoom where everyone gets into Zoom. We all work on one specific task for an hour. And then at the end of the day, you can get back into the Slack platform that we use and talk about the success that you had. There's other resources, so you can check that out on waveproductivity.com. But you don't have to work with me with accountability. You can certainly get a partner that you feel comfortable with. Hold each other accountable for the tasks that you need to have throughout your day. Another piece that's important is creating flex time, especially during a time of crisis. Emergencies are going to arise. So even if you have 1 hour or you have nothing planned, you can start shifting your day so that when emergencies arise, you can handle them and then reshift your priorities throughout the day. But if you've crammed your full day, your calendar is completely booked, there's not time for you to be flexible around emergencies or issues that may come up. And moving away from perfectionism. Done makes far more money than perfect. So if you struggle with procrastination, perfectionism, finding a work style that fits that so that you can move away from procrastination, perfectionism, and move into a place where you can get things done. One fantastic client of mine who was an overachiever said, I know now that I don't need to hit 100%. If I can do 86%, that is good enough and great enough for me to get my work done. So find out what done is for you and make sure that you're moving your business forward. So I want to check in. If you have any questions for me around time management, you can enter them into the chat box, and then Amy and I can manage those. Amy, are there any questions? So one question that I get asked often is, I've heard these techniques before, I have had trouble in implementing them. What I want to do is offer you a free consultation. So if you are struggling with any kind of productivity or time management challenges, we can hop on the phone, talk them through, and see if productivity coaching is something that you would benefit from. In closing, there's some other key pieces that will help in time management and help within this pandemic crisis. The first one is connection, making sure that you connect with your colleagues and clients during this time. Also connecting with the Better Business Bureau. We have a bunch of great webinars and information on how to handle the COVID crisis. So reaching out to them for their support and helping you manage your business so that it will thrive in this crisis. Another piece, and I've seen this, that's so important, is that we bring goodwill. There's been so much kindness and goodwill with the businesses that I've worked with, and making sure that you bring that goodwill and that value to your work. We've seen each other in our homes, our pets, and our children. It's been great to acknowledge that kind of life and bring in more work-life balance, and making sure that we bring goodwill in this crisis. And also hope. So I talked about goal setting, and one of the things that people will kind of lose hope for or feel overwhelmed is that they have nothing to look forward to. So when you're setting your goals, creating some milestones or markers that will help in building hope to grow your business. I also want you to know that you can connect with me. So you can find me on LinkedIn, Margo Crawford, on Facebook with Wave Productivity. I'm also on Instagram and Twitter under Wave Productivity. I'd love for you to connect with me there. Certainly, if you have any productivity challenges, reach out. I want to thank you all for your time and attention today. Amy, I don't know if there's anything you want to close with.